Disclaimer. The content presented in this show is intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any individuals or organizations mentioned. Statements made about public figures or entities are based on publicly available information and are not intended to harm or defame any person or business. This show relies on fair use of social media posts, which are presented in good faith for the purpose of commentary and criticism. Viewers and listeners are advised to form their own opinions.
It's Circle Back, episode number 5, right here on the Circles Off channel. This is the show where we recap the week that was in gambling Twitter. Rob Pizzola here, Jeff Feinberg in his usual spot. We got the giant Jacob Gramenya producing today. Kirk Evans, basketball bettor, in studio, familiar to a lot of people on this channel. Debut episode, got to be nervous, no?
Not nervous, excited. I feel like this show was built for me.
I actually do think it is. You could be a star of this show for sure, with some of the takes you have. We're going to start with Alex Caruso, who...
Not the basketball player.
Not the basketball player. Very, very important to differentiate Alex Caruso, the potential scammer, from the basketball player. I'm not a big Alex Caruso fan. Again, not the basketball player. He wrote a write-up on his Twitter account where he was talking about Paolo Banchero under on points, rebounds, assists, 38.5. He's going to get clamped by Siakam. Pretty long write-up. This ends up turning into a 50-point, 13 rebound, 9 assist game for Paolo Banchero. Now, I don't want this to be like this show to be like a freezing cold takes type of situation. And I can't even really believe I'm going to do this. But I kind of felt bad for the amount of people that were piling on Caruso from this game, because every single bettor who's like put out content before has had one of these instances. I bet Carolina Panthers week 1 against the New Orleans Saints this year. They lost 47-10. They didn't even look like an NFL team. So you kind of like pile on by getting someone at like their lowest point type of thing. And it's just another loss.
I agree with you. And if you bet a lot, you're going to have bets that lose by a lot. So I will agree with you there. But I think it's hard to overstate how horrific the logic of this bet was. Because Pascal, 6 of 6 games, I'm not even sure that was the matchup. And Pascal played 5 of those 6 games for the Raptors and now only 1 for the Pacers. And there is not one better matchup for Paolo Banchero than against the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
So I agree, losing a bet by a lot, that happens, but this bet was laughably bad.
I mean, as a bettor, you'd rather just get your doors blown off than have the heartbreak bad
I agree.
finish.
I agree.
But I don't really do anything with the NBA. And I had this guy muted. So that must show how annoying I find him. Like, I don't know. The name sounded familiar from the basketball player. I was like, why did I even mute this guy? So maybe he's annoying enough where he deserves some of the blowback, I think.
Yes.
100%.
But I'm like maybe speaking out of turn because I don't really have any familiarity of it.
He set
Was
himself
he on like
up
a big
for this.
streak? Like I remember like a big streak or something.
See, like I don't follow Alex Caruso, but
Where's he work?
Yeah, I think he
just
sells
tweets?
out.
he says like
Substack
seen on ESPN in his bio, which by the way, that's like when people put that kind of stuff in the bio, it's usually a sign of like maybe beware of
He
this
was
person.
seen walking behind like the concourse when he was at a game just randomly on an ESPN stream.
I would say from a betting perspective, like seen on ESPN is probably like to anyone who's involved in betting or bets or follows betting content, that is not doesn't hold the same caveat as like being on ESPN in other regards.
I'm a little jaded because I used to beef with like the Philly Godfather on Twitter, and his bio was like, as seen on ESPN, as heard on Fox Sports Radio and whatever, and he would use these things to legitimize himself anyone who came after him for being a fraud would be like, well, would ESPN put a fraud on? Would Netflix do a documentary on a fraud?
Would
right?
ESPN put a fraud on their network? Yes, they would.
Well, I mean,
by
they
the
would.
way.
Right?
I've
No
worked
one's
in
immune to that.
mainstream media and booked many of frauds, knowing they're frauds, desperate for a booking, cancellations, needing to fill,
Right.
lazy, just wanting the grid, just wanting a name in the grid. Yeah, frauds get booked all the time.
So I temporarily felt bad for Alex Caruso here on this particular tweet. And then he pulled out an absolute gem, by the way, when he was tweeting about the presidential election, which is going to happen today in the United States.
So good.
Trump money line is the best bet you can make on the election. The favorite has won 43 of 45, 96% of presidential elections all time. I actually had to do a double take to make sure that I wasn't getting got. Like this wasn't a fake account. I had to make sure this was the real Alex Caruso. I don't know about you guys, but like, first of all, where is he pulling the favorite from elections in like the 1800s? How is there even a betting favorite?
I'm pulling up the 1788 to 89 United States presidential election.
Yeah, but were there odds? What was the closing line?
I can't find the closing line, unfortunately.
Like, there must have been some sort of underground bookies taking bets on the elections, right? But like, was there a universal line on Abraham Lincoln, George Washington?
I don't even know about universal, but is there any historical reference or documented to the line or what they were trading at with the underground books? This is a mesmerizing calculation here. This would be like, I don't know, like
you can't even find a bad comparison.
This would be like capping the next Open Championship at St. Andrews and referencing when they played with like balls made out of feathers
and wooden drivers. And
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, literally.
But also,
when they were like rocks, when they were hitting rocks, like that's essentially, I'd be like making a bet on a golfer based on. Like that's essentially what this would feel like. You're betting the Colts with Johnny Unitas to cap them for next week.
Yeah.
And pretending that you had the odds for those games. Like you knew that Johnny Unitas was the favorite. I guess Johnny Unitas you probably had the favorite, but like...
Yeah, you would have actually known something at that time because there's always betting odds on the NFL. But the presidential elections, I actually don't...
I mean... Yeah. And the swings and the odds, I don't think we've seen anything like this. We're sitting here up in Canada, full disclosure, so the political theater of it is truly like, I'm enthralled.
Yeah.
I'm enthralled. It is like watching a Game 7 of a World Series better, but having no, like, obviously I have a preference, but not as big of a preference as people might think I have. And I can't wait to watch the losing team's content.
Oh, it's
like
gonna be so good.
I cannot. Whoever it is, I don't even.
I don't
care.
know who it's gonna be.
Yeah,
but like, this just in, breaking news: the losing team is going to be convinced that the election was rigged, no matter what happens here. Like that's the content we're gonna get. I'm not a big political person, but I really enjoy the aftermath of U.S.
Yeah,
politics.
I mean, this is the theater of it for us, and just it's better than any sitcom. It is.
I would agree with you 100%. Speaking of better than any sitcom, that would be Mike Florio's tweets from Pro Football Talk. The 2-6 Jets are somehow favored by 1.5 points to beat the 6-2 Texans on Thursday night. This was a common opinion I saw. It was it wasn't just Florio. We're not just picking on him. A lot of people were really questioning how this could possibly be a line in the NFL. But the thing with Florio is he doubled down in game as well, where he said, while the Texans were winning, I know the Jets can still win this. Maybe they will, but why were they favored? Who actually would bet money on this team to outscore an opponent?
Something crazy had just happened. I remember they got a first down on like a 4th and 23, and then the Jets did something even crazier. Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember the exact thing that caused him to tweet this because I saw it after the fact, and I don't remember the game well enough. I have a fundamental problem, Jeff, with the I can't understand why this team is favored over that team. It's always, you get this in college football a lot, college basketball, unranked team at home to like the great ranked team. That's like 8th in the country. They're like, what the hell is this line? Sports books are set in a trap. What's going on here? And honestly, again, I often sound arrogant. I'm very self-aware that I can sound arrogant. But if you can't understand why the line is the way that it is, you probably shouldn't be betting that sport.
Or talking about betting on it.
Yes.
Or if you think you have like a 5-point edge, you should hammer the shit out
That
of
too.
it.
You can
like
bet the fucking game, Florio. You're allowed to place a bet on the
if
Texans.
you think the line is 5 points off, maybe more, because I think there's a lot of people who follow the NFL, watch it on Sundays. If you who aren't the biggest fans, love it, watch the games, but if you ask them midweek, what's the spread? I'm sure you would have gotten a lot of people be like on a streeter, like Houston -4.
Right.
This game was the perfect accumulation of like what the public gets wrong. 6-2 team versus 2-6 team. Jets at home. Houston has injuries. All that goes over better or non-bettors' heads. And then they're so confused as to why it's +1.5.
And the vibes,
Yes.
no one had worse
Vibes,
vibes than the Jets. They lost a game they dominated versus the Patriots, but it was the vibes are so bad in New York. They're walking around on eggshells in the building.
They just lost to the Patriots, a game that they dominated the box score. Does anyone want to point that out? That they deserved to win the game by 2 touchdowns and lost? That factors into the equation here.
And the part is, I feel like it was a little compounded by the week before. It felt like it was a huge one-side Vikings-Rams Thursday nighter that had a lot of
very
I don't
similar type of game.
understand the spread. But this one was even more intense than that one. And I even remember saying to buddies, we're on the Jets. I'm on the Jets simply because of this Florio perspective. And a lot of guys in the group chat who felt that
I got to pick on
way.
you, though. I have to pick on you for that. I don't want to do this to you, but the only thing worse to me than
No, I was already leaning the Jets. I'd already
Okay.
done a show before that tweet on Tuesday where I said I like the Jets.
The only thing that drives me crazy...
But it was time to fire even maybe an extra click. I'm guilty of that.
For me, the thing that's worse than the Florio tweet, because you can put your money where your mouth is. If you're Mike Florio and you think that this is the wrong bet and you bet Houston and you lose, fine, whatever. You bet Houston, you bet your opinion. The stuff that gets me is the galaxy-brained people who are I fucking love...
The spread makes no
I
sense.
love Houston in this game. But the books are telling me, I got to bet the Jets with this line because it doesn't make any sense. And they bet the other way. That to me is the only thing that's worse.
In my betting group chat, we call that the rat line of the week. My friends love betting that.
Yeah.
Exactly. How are the Texans +1.5? I got to bet the Jets.
I do want to defend Florio in the slightest away from gambling because he never sells himself as a gambling guy.
No.
He doesn't even think him and Sims give picks, but I don't even think they mention spreads.
They don't. They just pick the outright winner of the
and
game.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Florio is probably... He gets a lot of hate. I actually really like him because he's the only person with a job in high-end NFL media who calls the league to task on a lot of things. He's not afraid to piss off the league. Anyone else who works at these league partner places does not do that. Now we can have very annoying in-game coaching or analytics or betting shit, fine. But I love NFL minutia. I love it. The silliest little shit, and so does he. So I'm actually, I don't hate on him as much as a lot of people.
We have experience with Florio because me and Jeff used to work for Hardcore Sports Radio. We were producers, and we used to book Mike Florio long before he was a big name.
It was just a blog, and he would do hits. He was still a lawyer in West Virginia.
He was a lawyer.
We were booking our hits between him actually doing his day job. Before he was fully involved, bought out, or not bought out, but paid for the blog.
Yes.
It was I loved the blog. I was we got this guy.
Yeah, he was great. He was always really good to me, but he flipped out on me one day, which completely random tangent here, but One day I showed up to work and one of the producers had been let go. And they're like, Rob, you're taking over this show. It's our marquee drive time show. I'm like, okay. I'm finding out about this today. Like, a little bit of advance warning would have been nice. But basically it was like, okay, here's who we regularly have on the show. You know, you can continue to book that roster of guests. One was Steve Lyons, MLB. We used to use him
at Fox.
Yeah, and then and Florio was the other one. So I'm just, listen, at that point, I don't have a Rolodex. Like, I'm in my early 20s. It's hard for me to get NFL guests. I was regularly getting Joe Fortenbaugh at the time with whatever National Football Post, but I would get Florio pretty regularly. I'm just like getting Florio 3 times a week to talk NFL, and then out of nowhere,
the invoice came.
I call him one day, and he's like, Rob, I'm not doing the show today. I haven't been paid in like 2 months. Nobody fucking told me that I'm filling out invoices for Flo. I'm booking this guy like $150 a hit, racking up this mass. I'm like, somebody could have told me this. So I got to go and file an invoice. Our programming director at the time is like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, nobody told me. I thought this guy was just coming on for free. Yeah.
The thing I will give Florio credit in the afterlife of that, he actually held, as his rates got higher, because we had him early, he let us keep a lower rate.
Well, also, to be fair to Florio, he was in the right in that situation.
100%. I don't hold it against him.
Yeah, he's got to deal with
me having a bad experience because he flipped out on me. Fair. And I was like, I didn't even know. Like, I'm trying to explain it to him, and he's calling me like basically an idiot.
You're booking him to book. He's like, yeah, these guys pay me per hit.
Of course.
Well, the program director's like, I've made an agreement for Florio to come on once a week at this rate.
Yes.
Rob's out here booking him 3x that.
Lazy Rob.
And then months later, we're already pinching pennies, and now it's time to pay Florio for 3x a week for 2 months.
Yeah, totally. All right, moving on here. Self-report. So, very interesting thing happens this week. I find this entire story fascinating. Someone tweets at GRP, which is actually the second slide that we have here, which is exposing Kelly in Vegas, basically. He's posting pics that are from Kelly in some sort of newspaper, tags GRP. She does not have a notebook, will not show betting slips, is very rude, is a consistent loser at sports, whatever, going on and on and on. GRP, who's infatuated with Chernoff now, Adam Chernoff being a scammer or whatever, he does this I actually like Kelly in Vegas. I didn't before, but I've come around on her. I think he said she has a raspy voice, which he likes, we're getting to different stuff here. And he says that, she should be at ESPN. She was unfairly, let go, and she should have Aaron Kate Dolan's job or whatever. That's one aspect of this entire story, which I found weird. The second is Kelly gets wind of this, and she responds saying, newsflash, I give out 1 to 2 NFL plays a week. I gave out the Jets Thursday, Dolphins this morning, have Packers right now. This is a contest in the newspaper required to pick 5 NFL games per week. And she posts her record from another contest where she's also required to give 5 picks per week, where she's doing better on those than in the newspaper.
It's better, but
yeah, whatever. The record is not great regardless.
NFL's hard.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
There's part of me that sympathizes because when you do content, or at least when I do, I can't say the same for everyone else, but not everyone is going to get every single bet that I make over the course of a week. They're not. They're literally going to get maybe 5% of my NFL bets over the course of the week because I bet a lot of props where that I don't do content for. I bet games when the lines move later in the week. And it sucks, like this year, when I'm doing an NFL Best Bets show and I'm 3-6 on my best bets, when I've actually had an incredible year. That sucks. But you have to own it regardless. You can't just tiptoe around it and be like, well, I had to throw in 3 picks for the sake of you don't have to do newspaper picks, or you can easily say I'm not a part of this. Once that's out there and it's documented, you just have to own it at that point.
like, if you think I'm betting this many NFL games, seek help. Sorry that anyone looking at this newspaper, seeing Kelly in Vegas's picks, thinks she's betting these 5 games. Like, she's taking this hardline stance. Like, people shouldn't think she's betting on these games that she's posting in a newspaper. Yeah. And she says she's required to do it. Like, no one's forcing her to do anything.
So I have it in the rundown as self-report here, because one of the things I like the most about this is that, like, if you are good at betting, you should have the understanding that you want to decrease the amount of variance in your picks. Therefore, you should upgrade your volume.
Yes.
The fact that she doesn't understand that, and you should seek help if she's betting, God forbid, 5 NFL games a week. She may not quite have the understanding, potentially.
It's an old school way of thinking.
Yeah,
I don't really have an opinion here. Like, obviously, this is my take on it is your defense of yourself to, like, reference something that's a contest with stale lines doesn't help you. So you're kind of just digging yourself a deeper hole.
Well, that's another.
But I know Kelly's very polarizing. I guess because, like, there weren't a lot. Like, she's one of the first females to be, like, a
100%.
vocal sports bettor. So
And she's a mentor to other females in the state.
So she wears a lot of heat. And I don't like. Listen, I find a lot of humor in George. He cracks me up everything. I don't know. He seems to, like, happily go after, like, any female.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him, I guess, turning in favor.
I think I might have, like,
Kelly.
buried the lead with the George stuff, because I think a very, like, weird factor in this entire thing is that people are now going to George to try to have him expose other people, when I think George might actually need to be exposed.
No.
Like, George exhibits all the behaviors of people that he rips all the time.
Yeah.
He has a notebook where he's 500 on the NFL. We covered him last week.
He's
where he went 10
exposed.
11, he started crossing stuff up.
George gets taken to task plenty, I think. I'm not here to
You
defend
paints the
George.
nerves
I don't
Jeff,
know.
you
I think
can't
you
roast
really
George in
like
front of him.
George, Jeff. I really
Yeah,
think
I'm a
that
big
you see him
fan.
in a
He's a
different
fan.
light.
No,
than
he's
he's
Hold
picking up
on,
this
hold
guy.
on.
Who is
like? Do I think he's a
GRP?
sharp capper? No.
to expose other people.
Oh
in the
no,
betting
he doesn't have
industry.
that right.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, he could do whatever he wants. I think that's funny. I think picking Chernoff is an interesting target. I do like, as to your point, now he is sort of the people are going to him. I'm sure this summer he's gonna be very popular with, like, running polls. It's like, who should I forensic accountant this season? Like,
I'm not going to lie to you. I may have DM'd him 3 weeks ago saying, hey, you ever heard of this Favorites podcast? Just hoping that he would start to track. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even. But no, I don't. If you take George seriously, then you're lost. Then, see, that's the thing where
But he takes himself so seriously,
That's
Jeff.
part of what makes him awesome.
I get the amusement. I find the content very engaging at times.
I agree that, like, George doesn't need to really be exposed, because I think pretty much anyone watching or reading his tweets understands it.
Like, let's just, like, analyze his situation. You don't need to expose that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I just find it so weird that he calls people out
That's
for the
what
exact
makes it so
same
good.
things that he does. Like, he calls out Chernoff for going on Mitch and Pauly on VSiN and giving out leans on the game, and he literally writes in his notebook, like, Chernoff rambled for two minutes with useless information, and then he goes on BetQL with Joe Ostrowski and Sam
Sammy,
Panayotovich, and he gives out, I like the 49ers against the Chiefs because, like, I think they're due to win this game. Super Bowl revenge game. Like, he does the exact same things that he's trying to expose someone else
That's what
for.
makes him great.
That's the charm.
Like,
isn't
that's
it?
why I find him. That's part of what I like about George.
I'll also say about George, I think he has a direct correlation between the more popular he gets, the bigger degenerate he becomes. 2 years ago, George was, like, posting regular season wins that, like, maybe were, like, -1% to 2%. Now he posts some of the most egregious 500 to 1 bets I've ever seen.
I knew he was he was going down a bad path.
When he's betting the guy who like makes the first birdie in the Masters to win the golf tournament.
Exactly. I'm like, George, this is not going to overcome the VIG, my man. Like, this is a heavily juiced market. Just because the guy went 1 under on the first hole and no one else has teed off yet does not give you some sort of massive edge. That's where I knew. That's where I.
No, there's a lot of demarcation points along the way. I don't like. Do you know Kelly?
Oh yeah, I have a very, very deep history with Kelly because back in 2013, 2014, Oddshark reached out to me. I was just a writer at The Score. I used to write an NFL column, if you remember, back in the day. It's like a 5,000 word column every week. Candidly, I thought I was the shit at that time. I wasn't. I didn't know enough about the NFL to be writing that. All the things I complain about from other people now is like I was that person in life. So I just want to point that out. But I went to an event in Vegas. Oddshark flew us out. They would always host Super Contest Weekend, which, by the way, I never, ever regret going to. Was some of the best times I've ever had in my life. They had a huge budget. They'd put us up in a hotel. They'd enter us into the Westgate Super Contest at the time, and we would party for a weekend. And I met Kelly there. I met Nick Kostos there, Sam Paniotovich, oddly enough, Big Cat and Dave Portnoy, Clay Travis, Todd Furman. We had a great time. There's more people that I'm forgetting right now in terms of overall names. We had a great time. I was friends with Kelly for a long time. I actually don't know when the relationship broke, but I have a guess, which was, when you have like mutual friends and they beef and you just want to stay out of it? Like, I don't want to be a part of that. That was Kelly and Kanish. Kanish called her out on the internet. I think, and again, this is pure speculation. I'm not stating this as fact, but I think the relationship deteriorated when Kelly thought that I should defend her in those instances, and I didn't. I don't regret not defending her. I think some of the things he said were mean-spirited, but also fair as well. They probably could have worded them a little bit better, but that was it. And she just like stopped talking to me. We texted maybe 3 years ago, where I was like tried to like squash the beef, but like nothing has really changed since then. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I feel like I just need to keep it real in this space. Like, if you said something dumb, I would call you out on it. If you said something dumb, I do this all the time to finish. Like,
you see friends like who don't even know each other, like they're going at it on the internet, and then maybe at some point, if they like hit you in your DMs, like, "What's up? You know that guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, listen, I'm friends with both of you. This is uncomfortable." But I don't know, he's still my friend. You're still my friend. You guys can have your beef.
Yeah.
Like, in the end, let's be perfectly honest. Like, they're technically still all, like, internet friends.
Yeah.
Like, if I've met you once or twice in real life, that would be a lot. So let's call it for what it is as well. Like, 2 of my internet friends are beefing. I guess I don't give a shit.
I agree. And also, everything that happens on Twitter it's so fake. Like, for someone to take it so personal to be mad at you is really funny. But also, how do you think this is going to make it better? Or
but I think if that happened today, the thing is, not that you care, but now I'm going to like try to be a mediator.
Yeah.
If that happened today, I think like sports gambling, Twitter, internet, it's just so much further down the line that I don't think, and Kanish as a person is just, he's been in a lot of internet battles where I don't think Kelly would expect you to step in front of a Kanish firing line today. Like, I just think the whole perspective would be, I think, different.
This is definitely going to make it worse, but it's topical. Like, I mean, I'd be doing a disservice to the audience if we didn't talk about the stuff that is topical. Like, that needs to happen. That's what this show is all about.
Well, no, I think I set you up to, like, I unintentionally opened the door for you to tell a story about.
No, it's totally fine. It's actually good for the context because I liked, like, me and Kelly were friends. Every time I would go to Vegas, I'd message Kelly, be like, I'm in Vegas, like, meet up. We used to gamble together. We'd go out drinking, went to Top. Like, we would do stuff. It just doesn't happen anymore. We're not friends anymore, right? Let's call it out for what it is. We don't talk anymore. One of the biggest things, too, was I will say, like, when I joined Betstamp, at that same time, she was doing stuff for BetSperts. And
I was going to bring this up.
I actually didn't honestly even know this, but on one podcast, I just roasted BetSperts at the time. They're a big competitor of ours, but one thing that Betstamp we didn't want to do is like erase people's records and stuff like that. We viewed BetSperts as a platform where that's like pick it now, where people can kind of just like scam their way to success, hide picks, do whatever. And I said that as well. And a bunch of people started tagging Kelly in like a tweet where I was saying that, and that obviously caused things to get worse. It was never meant to be directed at her, but this is life, man. This is life.
And
I don't think you guys are burying the hatchet
and if
anytime soon.
Circles Back existed all those years ago, we could have broken down the Kanish Kelly beef.
I know. Like there was a Pizzola, Kanish, Jeff Nadeau beef. And now, like, Nadeau promos this shit. He got hacked this week on Twitter, by the way. That was a completely separate story. But he promos the shit out of this show. He messaged me on the side, and he's like, this is amazing. Like, I'm sorry we had beef before.
I had a beef with Nadeau once. We've been chill for years. Like you said, the internet's not real. There's a lot. I couldn't even remember what 95% of the beefs are about.
I say this every year. But every year I go to Bet Bash. And I have a fair amount of people who criticize me online, which is fair. Listen, everyone's within their right to think. But I go to Bet Bash, and these people come up to me, and they're like, hey, Rob, just so you know, this is my Twitter handle. I've been pretty harsh to you in the past. I just want to say, like, I honestly appreciate what you're doing for the industry. I'm like, why don't you fucking say that to me online? Like, why does it take us meeting But it's different. It's just different. Look at Kirk on the internet. This guy's like the nicest guy in person.
He's a monster online.
He's an absolute monster.
Well, to be fair, I don't criticize you. I don't criticize people I look at as smart, but if people say dumb things, I'll criticize them. But, like, I wouldn't take that back if I saw someone in person. If you said something dumb online and I criticized Betstamp a ton when it was that weird Twitter account for a bit.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that face.
And I wouldn't say I was wrong there. But I do agree. I'm obviously much nicer in person. But there wouldn't be that many reasons for me to be like criticizing.
I wish we could have gone through this show when Betstamp had that like 3 month
Me too.
Twitter period where they were their engagement farming a little bit more. I would have some opinions on that where I think some of the criticism was over the top, but such is life. Such is life. Speaking of criticizing, you were going to say something, Jeff?
Well, I'm just saying, like, we're just teasing the people. It just says Steve Fezzik.
Yeah. We don't even have a good, clever caption for him on the rundown board.
We threw this one in late. I didn't have time to think of a.
Yeah, Jacob dropped the ball there. The Giant dropped the ball.
I fumbled this one.
Yeah.
But, like, people see Steve Fezzik and they want to tune in to see what.
That was part of the thought
about.
process from the Giant over there, where he's like, yeah, you know what? If it's on the rundown, people will go to Fezzik at some point. Which, listen, engagement farming, I don't give a shit. I mean, we're running a content company. At some point, you got to do something to draw views. I had a tweet that blew up. Full disclosure, I was listening to the favorites when I tweeted that at the time. But something that drives me crazy in the sports space is when people are like, oh, go out and grab the 3.5s while you can, because there's all the other spots are at 3 right now. And there's not one time where I've heard somebody say that where the 3.5 that was in market is minus 110. And different numbers have different VIG attached to it. So at this time, the only 3.5s in market were minus 120. And there was plus 3s, plus 105s at other books, which is actually a better price. People are like, how do you calculate the price? There's lots of tools online you can use to convert prices, but it's fairly simple thing to do. You can look it up on Google and you'll get some good results. Fezzik responds, I say that all the time. When I or any sharp says grab plus 3.5, of course we mean at minus 110. And I'm calling BS on this one because first of all, 3.5 minus 110 so rarely exists.
I never even thought about that
in the NFL space because 3 is such a key number. It's really rare that you see 3.5 minus 110, but it's not just around 3 or 3.5 or 6 or 6.5. Like, it just matters. The VIG matters as much as the number does in betting. So I think as a content creator, like, you have to get that across. Fezzik was very critical on Forward Progress last year when we used to say what the number was good to. We would say, bet this, it's good to this. And he'd be like, oh, like, why would you do that or what? It's like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you? I think that content creators very often lose sight of the VIG, period. It's just not natural to talk about.
Yeah, well, good too, I will say, like, it's a very important part of betting. Like, if I'm sending a bet, I'll say good to X number, but also you will see a lot of touts go, over 4.5 assists. I'd play 5.5 as well, where there's maybe 4.5 is good, but there's no chance 5.5 is good.
Right.
But back to Fezzik, he's very close to getting the mute button for me. He has become
Oh, you can't.
almost
Can't
unbearable
afford
on
to miss
Twitter.
out on the gems in there.
And also, when
come on.
I or any sharp,
It's election week. You're not muting Fezzik.
Yeah,
I think that might be more.
You miss out on some more. You
especially the fact that he has tweeted maybe 20 times, I don't talk about politics, and has followed that up with 100 politics.
There's a politics show for a sports book now. I don't talk about politics.
Is that for real? There's a show?
Yeah. It's like
offshore,
a bet.
offshore sports book.
I don't know.
And
if
it's just
show
politics?
all the time.
Fezzik on politics?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was where we pulled the. Remember
You were on the
tweet,
show
Jeff?
when we talked about his
Yeah.
election tweet.
Where he said he had a hot
swing
take,
states are going to
only-
decide the election. No
Only
fucking
these
shit,
specific
Fezzik.
states matter. It's a little secret he had.
Yeah. It's not out.
You had to watch the show to find out.
Yeah, that's good info. Just like
I didn't know
3.5
we did
minus 110 is better than 3 minus 110.
I didn't know we did long form politics talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know it was like a recurring show. I thought it was just like a one-time hit.
I think they've done it a few times leading up to the election.
Like, listen, I could get really nitpicky with stuff. I consume lots of content in the space. Fezzik is going to be a regular topic on this show because I think a lot of the things that he tweets are absurd. And it's not just me. You can see a lot of the reaction. This is why we use stuff like this on the show, because it garners a reaction in a lot of cases. Like, the next comment is, I've posted a zillion times, only play 6-point NFL teasers, minus 120 or less, period. 2 sportsbooks have those. Don't lay more than minus 120. Some very rare shops still have minus 110. He's also said a million times, Wong teasers are the only way to go. All right? Classic style Wong teaser. Well, you know what happened? I listened to Even Money podcast last week with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik, where he teased a game up from 1 to 7. That is not a Wong teaser. And then he said, for the purposes of this show, I will tease it to 7, but in my regular everyday betting, I'm going to be teasing it to 7.5. So don't fucking give it out on the show then, because other people are going to go. Like, this is the issue I have with when you're like, oh, I always say this. But then you don't act it in principle as well, because there's a bunch of people who are just going to play that teaser at 7 at the sportsbook that they're promoting. It doesn't matter if you've preached Wong teasers elsewhere to 7.5.
Absolutely. I have so many problems with this tweet, honestly. One, DraftKings and Bookmaker have those.
Yeah.
Bookmaker only has minus 120 teasers if you have a not like profiled account. Anyone who starts playing those for actual money or wins cannot bet those at Bookmaker. 2, and I can't say this for a fact, but I'm so confident. I know that Fezzik for sure sends out teasers as official bets on his record.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the worst scam touty bullshit there is. Maybe not the worst.
You
but
don't like that at all.
I hate giving out teasers. Look, it's such a known thing.
Yeah.
Wong teasers. It's not that hard to put that on your official record where, again, he says 2 books and only one of them is going to kick you off so often,
Right.
and then the other one won't let you do it if you win. Like, it just doesn't exist. People won't get it, and it has no skill. It's not like sending out, Cleveland minus 3.
Yeah.
So that's like a massive pet peeve of mine. So, yeah, he's close to getting the mute for me.
That's tough. I can't imagine living with Fezzik muted.
Well, I also have GRP muted.
Wow. I did unfollow him, and he wasn't too happy about that. He did message me on the side. All right. Keep it moving along here. One sportsbook that's not going to limit you if you're a winning bettor is going to be Pinnacle Sportsbook. Very fair limits for everyone. It's the reason they've been in business for 25 years, and they have such a high reputation in the betting space, especially amongst the sharp bettors in the space. Make sure you check out Pinnacle Sportsbook. If you are in Canada, if you do want to sign up, head over to pinnacle.com/hammer. We don't make anything off of that sign up. We just promote the book because I've been betting there for a long time. I think they're a really quality option for you. You must be 19 plus, not available in the US. As always, please play responsibly. Let's talk bad beats. There were a few. Tua's prop was 243.5 passing yards. He had 254 yards. He was over by 10.5 yards with 5 seconds left in the game. Garbage time. They're trying to go down the field and score. Jalen Waddle catches a lateral, runs back 24 yards. Tua's prop loses. Some may say insane beat, like Prop Geek Zeke says right here. Some cashed a winner. Hitman. Forward progress. Saturday prop show. Tua under.
Hitman's earned some luck. I think
He really has.
he's getting it this year.
He's getting some luck. Second bad beat this week was producer Jason, by the way. I'll talk about him in a second. He's not in the seat today. Kirk is here. He says he'll Venmo someone $10 if they show him a Corley first touchdown ticket. Still hasn't Venmo'd anyone $10, by the way.
I know for a fact he lives in Canada where Venmo isn't a thing.
That's another story. I don't know why he used Venmo. 100% extremely valid point. No idea why he put that out there. Incredibly embarrassing. Incredibly embarrassing. I don't know if anyone watched this Malachi Corley play. You probably have seen
Everyone
it.
saw it. Come on.
Yeah. He was walking into the end zone. He pulled the classic Deshaun Jackson move of dropping the ball before the goal line. Bunch of tickets come in here. One from Kenny Ducey. That name is familiar to me. I don't know why. One by Ian. Just bad beats. Some of the responses to these beats, though, were actually really interesting. Where, like, I don't want people get up on their high horse and they're like, well, is it actually a bad beat when, you can somewhat predict that these types of things can happen. Late game situations matter in the NFL. There's laterals, there's quarterback kneels. I get it, but at some point you got to draw the line and be like, this is insanely unlikely to happen, Jeff.
The Tua beat is crazy. But to call the Corley one not a bad beat because, yeah, sure, all the time on Sunday we see lots of touchdowns get called back with a penalty.
Yeah.
I don't care. I do not care. Sure, in the range of outcome on every play is a penalty that calls it back. It wasn't like you took freaking, Mixon at 4-1.
Yeah.
And there's a penalty. You took the guy at the biggest number. They call the play. He gets in there. They throw the flat. That is officially a bad beat.
What are you going to do as a bettor? You're going to call up Corley's high school teachers and be like, hey, was this guy super dumb? Does he have the chance? It's just random.
Oh, I forgot it wasn't a flag.
No, it wasn't a flag.
Oh, he dropped the ball.
That's
it's an even worse beat. Oh my God. Remember earlier in the show we were talking about, I know the Jets gave a first down on a 4th and 23, but I can't remember the other thing they did that was even dumber.
Yeah,
and you're like, I can't remember the game.
It was that.
This was it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is unequivocally as bad of a beat.
You're not going to get a worse beat in your life. If you bet Malachi Corley, first touchdown scored,
125 to 1.
You are not getting a worse beat
Ever.
in your life.
Yeah.
He was an inch from a touch. When we're talking about probabilities, that's as close to 100% as it get. It was a walk-in touchdown. All the guy has to, when Jeff famously said all DeMar Hamlin had to do was wake up. All Corley had to do was cross the goal line with the ball in possession with no defender around.
It's also one of those things where if that's just a Sunday 1:00 game in Tampa, they might not even have the angle like they didn't have one on Kyle Pitts to overturn it.
Great point.
Yeah, I think what happened with bad beats is it became such a thing, and then touts who give out picks would be like, oh, lost on the hook, bad beat on a 4.5 assist. So people went crazy to oh, that's not a bad beat, that's not a bad beat. And then now their minds are kind of warped.
It shifted to the other end.
Exactly. They think nothing's a bad beat. If you look at this play or even the Tua play and you think, oh, that's not a bad beat. No, those two are as bad beats as it gets.
When you are 99.9% to win a bet and you lose, it's a bad beat. Plain and simple. When you bet the Bears against the Commanders and you lose on a Hail Mary, that's a bad beat.
They also, they went to commercial as they're reviewing this.
Yes.
And in my head, they're like, well, he's never, in my head, as they're a commercial, I'm like, well, he's never scored an NFL touchdown before. So maybe someone on his own team, picked up the ball, which wouldn't have been his touchdown either. But then you see that ball, roll out of the back of the end zone on a high camp.
So slowly, one extra.
Oh my God.
One extra rotation. I think the definition of bad beat needs to really be ironed out and crystallized so that there's a uniform
Agreed.
way. And to me, if you're 99 times out of 100 to win a bet and you lose.
But SVP does something. And I think those are pretty authentic bad
SVP
beats.
does those.
Yeah.
I believe Lockie Lockerson, Ken Barkley, was the originator of that segment for SVP.
I think for
Shout
bad
out to
beats,
Lockie.
you need something kind of extraordinary to happen, like either of these plays.
Yeah.
It's not a bad beat if you're really close to winning and lost, or even if your team took a big lead and then blew it. Those things happen. Those aren't bad beats.
Agreed.
Something extraordinary happening, like Malachi Corley dropping the ball at the half-yard line, that qualifies 100 times out of 100.
100%. I think it can. I get irrationally upset when people call stuff a bad beat that I don't consider to be a bad beat. Again, I say irrationally. I know that it's not irrational, but I'm watching Seahawks Rams, and I'm on the Rams. All my friends are on the Seahawks because Rams are the public side or whatever. This is how all my friends bet. And they're flipping out in the group chat when in overtime, the Seahawks go for it on a 4th and 1 and they get stopped. And they're like, terrible beat. I'm like, what? What's the terrible beat here? They had 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They ran 2 running plays. They got stopped. You know how often that happens in the NFL? This is where? Yeah, it sucks. You were in a position.
Play.
Yeah, it's
just a regular play in
football.
The flow of the game. Not
this
a
is
bad
football.
beat.
Yeah, but when you go into overtime or these types of situations too, those are bad beats, man. Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when you got him over rushing yardage and he's not taking regular kneels. He's dropping back
But it's
12
also
yards.
bad beats also gone the thing where if it's the last leg of my parlay and it's minus 250 and it doesn't win, the 5-point favorite loses, that's a bad beat just because
doesn't qualify. In my books. No,
Wait.
that's not a bad beat to me. That's regular course. You lose minus 250.
5-point favorites lose every night in every sport.
What about
yeah.
injury? If you had Olave again this week.
Not a bad beat.
I agree, not a bad beat.
You should be, honestly, when you're betting props, you should be pricing the chance of an injury into the prop.
Especially if it's Chris Olave who gets injured.
Yeah.
To me, it's a bad beat if, let's say, the player, you have over 50 yards, the player's at 49, and then gets hurt. That starts to get into qualifying, but players get hurt all the time. That's not a bad beat.
Yeah. I don't know. There's tons of examples.
Puka, if a guy gets ejected, bad beat.
Where do you stand on those college football games this year where they didn't play the 15 minutes of the 4th quarter because they were such big blowouts that the
That's
teams
a bad
just
beat.
agreed we're not going to play the full 15.
That's a bad beat.
That's a bad beat, right?
Does it
How are you going to account for that?
You can't
No,
possibly.
but does the game not
Basically,
void?
No, there's
if
some.
it is. The bets
Yeah,
are
so
void.
if you have a
That's void,
team
but you have I
You've
see.
already won.
Yeah, you've
Your
won.
team is winning by 65 points and the spread
and you
was
late
40.
30, you've already got it.
It's
it
done.
voids.
But they basically said, well, you know what? It's this
The
is
thing is,
not a
can
game.
you say it's a bad beat if it's just a push?
I think so.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Semi bad beat.
It's definitely in the realm. Like it could be applied for. To me, a
your
bad
money.
beat is something you apply for.
You already
Like,
won.
Yeah, you won. The money would be in your account, but you haven't lost. The difference is
It's
you
not a
haven't
bad
lost
beat,
here.
but
Semi-bad beat.
You didn't lose, but you did. You would have had that
close.
money. I guess you can technically consider you lost that money still.
Calling Our Shot makes his way onto our show for the second time in 5 episodes this week, where he posts a minus 292 same game parlay that loses. Bo knows, infamous for Twitter beefs with our guy Hitman at Forward Progress. Buddy lost a minus 292 bet sent to 288K people. Wake up, fam. You know when two people who you feel like don't know what they're doing are arguing with each other.
I was about
and you
to say,
just want
this is about the blind leading the blind as much as possible. Like, I couldn't think of two people who know less arguing.
I know nothing about calling our shot. He just gives off the vibes to me of a huge following, tweets enough dumb shit where I'm like, I don't know, but I actually don't know whether he
Look at these two tweets here, or the tweet and the bet slip. You know all you need to know.
Well,
goal.
do you?
Pick a bet between minus 250, minus 500 every single day and roll over the winnings.
Yes.
I started with $25. No problem with betting minus 250 to minus 500, but that goal, whatever, really dumb. And then you see the bet. Market in 15 plus, Sabonis 10 plus, Sabonis 8 plus rebounds. That's the classic, like, horrible. You're paying the juice a bunch of times and parlaying them. So I would say you know all you need to know.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. So for those listening and not watching on YouTube, there is the bet amount of this wager in the screenshot that he posted, which is $30.95 at FanDuel. FanDuel is like a book that caters to Rex and Sharps. They're not going to give you like the biggest limit in the world. If you're limited at FanDuel, you've done a pretty decent job as a bettor. But I mean, that could not be limited. That could just be.
It's a strange one.
It's a strange bet amount.
$30.95 is either like you hit your limit. $30.95 is also I have $30.95 left in my account. Let's dump it on this super juice parlay. Just get some of it back. That would be how I have friends who think like this. When they are on the last little bit of what they have in their account, they'll bet on something super juice just to recoup a little bit of that. That's the mindset.
What they like to call a bankroll builder.
Yeah.
One of
Yes.
the dumbest.
Oh my God.
One of the dumbest expressions in
Bankroll
all of sports
builder.
betting. But I will say, slight inside knowledge, I'm pretty confident his account is restricted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slight inside knowledge.
Yeah, like I'm quite confident in that, but also I'm pretty confident that it was a really dumb decision.
See, like, Bo knows responds to this, Bo Wagner. And if I wanted to roast calling our shot for this bet, I'd be like, Buddy sent out a minus 292 that, really should have been priced at whatever, nowhere near valuable bet type of thing. But Bo is like many people in the betting space who think that as soon as there's a minus attached to a bet, it cannot possibly be a good bet. It's like the people who are like, well, I'll never lay more than minus 160 on a baseball game because, it's too much juice at that point. I have been very open that I lay big numbers, especially in hockey on like goalie not to get a shutout, player not to score a goal. Actually, last episode you were with me. I laid Nick Paul not to score a goal and lost. He scored in that game.
Well, that was automatic.
Yeah, it was going to happen as soon as you say it publicly. I do this all the time. There's incredible value in some of this stuff. So it's like another sign to me. Again, people love to call each other out in the space and spat, but there's plenty of times where someone will give out a minus 292 bet that really should be priced at like minus 500, and it can be a valuable.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying this one is, but it's
It could have been.
could have been. It probably was.
You can realistically handicap a game and say, I know this is like, I agree with Kirk. It's like the classic type of bet for this game. Like you take like the marquee players to get above their averages. I understand that. But you could come up with a game script where you could consider plus EV. There's nothing wrong with taking a minus 292 as long as it's plus EV, which I think we could argue that in this case is not. But well, I don't want to pile too much on.
Well, Jacob, you work with Pips on the board on pick and roll, right?
That's what I'm saying, because Pips would come up with parlays very, very similar to this. I mean, Pips would likely not be putting like minus 292 on the show. Not that he wouldn't bet that, but you can come up with a game script where you just think Markkanen has a good matchup here, Sabonis has a good matchup, he's going to be getting a ton of minutes, and bet that. So, in slight fairness to calling our shot here, that's potentially what he sees. Maybe you could definitely argue against that, but I think the point of this is you can find good bets that are minus 292 or way higher. But yeah, I would argue that when people see minus 130 or more, they think it's just not a good
minus triggers people so much. How dare you give out a bit? Listen, there's a difference between minus 292 and minus 8,000 Purdue money line. I would say like there's some room for error in between there, but we'll keep it moving along here. Kevin Durant tweets out great dub, Suns. And for my parlayers, better luck next time, LOL. Now, there's a lot to unpack with Kevin Durant in particular. He does tend to respond to people on Twitter, oftentimes not from his own account, but from his burners, which were uncovered years ago. I do have sympathy for the players who constantly get tweets when they don't hit their point total and whatever. But dude, how much is Kevin Durant making and what's a max contract?
Like he's probably making like $50 million this year.
Yeah.
Fucking like mute the accounts and move on, dude. Like
that's just not what he's
like. Look at
like.
the profile picture. He's got the all the swords pointed. This is from Tangled.
Yeah.
All the swords pointed at the guy. I didn't see this movie, but
I don't know. Is it from Tangled? I don't even know.
I don't know. Whatever. But it's for anybody
not
listening to
familiar
audio,
with
it's the
Jeff
meme
would
where
know.
the
He
guy
probably brings the girls to Disney movies and stuff like that.
It's the meme where the guy's smug with his arms crossed and he's got like 20 swords pointing at his neck. So he's egging people on.
Yes.
But when the NBA has dealt last season with a player who was betting against his own team and betting against his own numbers, you'd think you'd have a little bit more awareness not to post something like this, which could be considered insinuating that's what you're trying to do. Because also, somebody replied, I didn't put it in here, somebody replied, I bet you feel good about yourself. And he said, extremely. So he's happy he played poorly. It's not a good look for the NBA.
There is not a active player in any sport I could ever think of who is as good and as talented as Kevin Garnett. Durant, who simultaneously is so bad at the internet.
Yeah, I'm with
and
you.
understand it, like the level of like we see a lot of mids get into it on the internet, like to use their platform as mids in the league.
Yep.
And I don't even say that as an insult. Like they're mid-level players in a professional sport.
Yep.
I've never seen a player at the pantheon talent level of Durant engage in the internet, but also simultaneously be so fucking bad at it.
Yeah.
That's a talent.
I will say, he tweeted at Matt Moore,
Yep.
absolutely dummying him. So now he's in my good books forever.
So yeah, I'm sure there's wins. I'm sure there are
100%.
wins in there.
It's just, to me, again, I think a common theme on Circle Back is a lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Betting, whether you are, if you're watching this show, you found it on a betting YouTube channel or a podcast, I'm sure you're into betting. Betting is good for the league. Let's call it out for what it is. There's a lot of visibility. More people watch the games because of it.
Revenue.
If you're an athlete, you would want this. You want gambling to be legal on your sport because it just draws more visibility to your sport. Of course, you're going to get the stupid idiots who message you every single night of like, dude, you cost me this parlay or whatever. You're fucking making $50 million a year. Just ignore it. Have someone else handle your social media. Do anything but respond to the people with potential implications of like, I'm glad you lost. Like maybe next time I won't get that extra rebound or something like that. Don't do stuff like that. It just seems like a very like common sense maneuver to, especially not to just tweet out something like this. It makes no sense to me.
This is what he does, though. This is what he does. He always does this.
I know.
I mean, I put the people who tweet at players for their performance.
Oh, they're worse.
I mean, they're as bad as the dudes in New York who try to rip the ball out of the guy's glove. It is that level of like loserdom.
100%.
That
Honestly,
you're in the same.
It is worse. It is worse. It's
Maybe.
At least
I would
ripping the ball out, like did it. He was there.
Yeah, the
in
thing was,
person.
nobody would say anything like this to Kevin Durant's face. Where the New York stuff was horrible, but at least they did it to the guy, right?
I'm
At
not.
least they did it.
I'm not
Yeah, they didn't
absolving
talk
those
shit.
people.
They actually fucking
I'm not
did it. That's what I'm
absolving the
saying.
loser on the internet who's tweeting at the athlete of like, dude, you fucked me, like go to hell, this and that, like death threat. I'm not absolving that. That's a different level of, stop betting. You got like some serious mental health issues.
Which Durant actually said something along those lines in one of the replies. Like you're getting mad at me
I saw
because
that.
you have a gambling problem.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
And that's a fair comment.
Yes.
That's fair, but
But
This
I mean, not
one
from
is-
him. Like,
Not
that's
from him.
bad.
It's a fair assessment. It
that's
shouldn't come from him.
That's a fair assessment. Do that from your burner.
Yes, exactly. Get someone else, like anyone but you, as your
And I'm sure the league, they're gonna get better at it, or it's probably part of like the training camp league orientations, where someone comes in and talks to them about the harassment that they now will face because of the prevalence of gambling. Like, that's sucks.
It does.
It's
But
very
also, this eggs it on.
It does.
Like, this is gonna
Yeah,
would add
agreed.
fuel
It
to the
incites
fire.
a riot.
Yeah.
By doing this, you're inciting the riot. Like, you just let it go. Just stop responding to people. Now that people know Kevin Durant responds, they tweet at him more. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
Period. Right? Max Homa roasted some guy's golf swing before. Now everybody tweets their golf swings at Max Homa for him to roast. Now that's different. Like, it's not doing anything wrong. He's having some fun with it. But when you bring on that interaction, more people interact.
Max Homa, I mean, you could debate where he like ranks, but one of the better pro athletes at the internet.
Yes,
For sure.
100%. He gets it.
Yeah.
Totally gets it.
Can take a joke, can
Yep.
tell a joke.
Yep.
Key.
Doesn't cross
Yeah.
the line with the jokes. He totally gets it. We're going to end off with a very unique edge here. Live Dog Luke, who I've met several times, is Spanky's head trader. Spanky, professional bettor. If you haven't heard of him before, pretty serious bettor. Luke tweets out something like really cryptic, I would say. Sometimes all you got to do to get a free half point is create a fake Twitter account, put up a team logo banner, and throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks. Then, Brett Favre, 444, known shit disturber, also professional bettor, very good. Hope nobody is actually paying Unabated Sports to take Gary Bro 354-555-77 word for it. So, putting this all together, if you haven't put it all together yet, Unabated is putting together a news bot.
A feed, yeah.
A feed. Very similar to Underdog, which people use in the space. And they're doing one for college football. Gary Browning, Gary Bro, tweets out, Sam Houston State University quarterback Hunter Watson is starting tonight after missing the second half versus WKU per team sports spokesperson. The Unabated bot now picks this up as news and reports it. Hunter Watson will start versus FIU tonight. The market steams off of this news. So, listen, I have this as a news feed that I use I use as many news feeds as possible. Someone sees this, they're like, this got to be real. Boom, they bet Sam Houston State. Move it from 6.5 to 7. Luke created a fake Twitter account, posted fake news, got it picked up by an injury bot to get the line to move from 6.5 to 7 to bet the 7.
a key number. It's
If
truly
this is not the
remarkable.
most clever technique, I think I cannot undersell how clever of a technique that is to get yourself some value in sports.
This is genuinely the best thing I've ever seen. Like, it's so smart. I aspire to do something like this. It's so funny. The fact that it was unabated also makes it even funnier. Just having that idea is incredible.
Why do you say that? Why do you say
There's
that?
a layer there.
Yeah, because you think people generally root against unabated? Is that why?
No,
Like,
if
yes.
it happened to ESPN, that might be true.
yep.
That might be true.
If it happened to ESPN, we'd all be
But
fucking
I'm
dying
just
of
saying, if it happened to anyone, if it happened to any news service,
Yeah.
I think people would find it funny. I think if it happened to a newer service, with people behind it who some people think take themselves way too seriously.
Yes.
I can see why in the cake that is this story,
Yes.
there's a layer
Yes.
in that cake of humor as it pertains to Unabated. I can see it.
Okay.
Because the reason, if this was ESPN, it would be funny and it would be really smart, but I wouldn't like feel like the connection to it. But like the fact that it's so intertwined in gambling Twitter as well, that they're pulling a fast one on Unabated, and obviously these guys are like intertwined,
Yeah.
makes it even better.
I'm just saying it'd be funny if it got to like Roto World got
Yes,
got.
for sure.
Like I'm just saying, like
100%.
anyone trying to be above the nonsense, falling for the nonsense.
Right.
I think there's a layer of humor in it.
Well, Brett Favre 444 rarely tweets anymore. I think he doesn't even follow anyone on Twitter. He just follows like one per. He doesn't tweet. But the fact that like him tweeting this very clearly shows a negative sentiment towards Unabated. And I think part of it is you build out tools to help other bettors, and I'm a pro sports bettor. I don't want this shit.
Absolutely.
I don't like it, and I think that's the negative sentiment. Here's what I will do. Coming from the product space, everyone is roasting Unabated. Like, this is bullshit. Like, I'll tell you, every injury bot, every news bot gets got at some point.
Absolutely.
Underdog gets got. They just delete the tweet very quickly when they get got. Everyone gets got. It's very unfortunate when you're building out something like this, and I will say, I have something like this that's private that I use for my own personal betting, that my betting partner built out. And sometimes we get got. We get a Telegram alert, this and that, and then I go look into it. I'm like, no. You refine as it goes on. And they will constantly refine. It is a free product right now, which I assume that at some point or another they might intend to charge for, whatever. But like, it happens. Like that's what I don't like. People want to stop. Oh, like, look at this. Like, the Unabated, they fucked up. You should never like trust this source or whatever.
No, I don't think they're beyond Like, I don't think like all credibility is lost.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think it's anything like that. I'm more focused on like I'm enthralled at how awesome this is. It also, in some ways, like shows. How do I put this? Like, you guys, you professional gamblers, like, you work. Whether it's how many Twitter accounts he had to create to get one to slip through, or how
for sure
many.
Wasn't the first time he did.
The amount of like,
not.
you know, just keeping up with your runners and staying on top of it. Like, I'm not like there is real. I don't know. People could debate like, you know, you're not. Like a pipe fitter or something, but like there's a level of like grind.
Yeah,
I should say. I am just enthralled with this level of grind. How much work really goes into the minutia of trying to magically make that half point, that crucial half point.
And by the way,
appear.
he did. Luke, I messaged Luke on the side. He did send me a screenshot of a very large wager on FIU +7 -115. So he did get it to move.
What was the final score? I wouldn't even know.
I actually don't even know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't even care what it was.
You're right.
It's irrelevant.
You're right.
to
You
the-
know what? I don't want it to even damper the story if it didn't get home.
It's irrelevant.
Let me look it up.
Gary Bro.
Gary Browning. Gary Bro. Gary Bro 3545. Yeah.
The Unabated, like, everyone gets got, like you said, but just then, like, when your bot picks up something wrong, it's probably someone tweeting something that a beat reporter thought they had information and the information was wrong.
Right.
It wasn't Luke intentionally trying to get you to bet the line.
It's true.
So he could get the +7.
It does make it seem worse. Like, the optics of it are worse because it's a known.
Because it was
fake.
intentional.
And I assume every game that Luke has flirting near a key number, he's sending out goober tweets, hoping they get paid. Like, I'm saying, like, it's like the corked bat. Like, this is the one we caught. This isn't the only corked bat you've gone to the plate with. This one just
This was the one that
shattered,
yes.
and
people, the umpire looked at it and said, like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
I also don't think if he got Underdog or ESPN, he would have tweeted about it. I think the fact that it was Unabated.
Well, so that's a
makes
different
him wanna tweet
conversation
that.
because Captain Jack has been very vocal recently. I don't know if we have that as well, Jacob.
We do.
Yes. So this came up from Redacted Gambler, who's very, interested in the betting space. But he clipped something from an Unabated stream where Captain Jack is talking about, he never references Spanky, but he does use the word the most destructible force of top-down betting and says that doesn't care about helping other bettors. I did watch this clip several times. We'll post it down in the description below if someone does want to see it specifically and watch it and judge for themselves. But there's like some side beef going on here as well. I want to say very explicitly, I saw Jack within the last month. We chatted for quite a bit. I've talked to Spanky pretty regularly. I would call him a friend. I don't want to talk about any personal details that I know because it's like in confidence that these people talk to me. But I think it's pretty clear that like there's something publicly that's going on there. And I think you're right, Kirk, that I feel almost like it was like a pat on the back of like, you got type of situation.
For sure. And I guess it's a bit different because Spanky does have Spank odds, so he is trying to be helpful to top-down betting. But like the most destructive force of top-down betting to me is like a moniker that I would want. Like I would, if I had the option of absolutely destroying top-down bettors, faking them, and they always got the wrong number, that's something that would be
like
amazing.
king shit.
Exactly. So that like to criticize someone like that to me is really funny because like he doesn't, if he's faking the market, he doesn't owe the top-down bettors good lines.
Well, there's also
That'd be
more
like
to this
mocking
story.
the guy who hits the most home runs in baseball.
Sure. That's
Like, why?
Yeah.
Well, who wants to know that guy?
Right. Yeah. There is more to it, right? Like that full clip that was cut here by Redacted Gambler. It starts with somebody asking what happened to the Caesars line on Unabated that's no longer available. And I deal with, I co-own Betstamp. We deal with feeds all the time, and it is tough to get a Caesars feed right now, like a real-time live Caesars feed. There's several reasons for it, but Jack insinuates that we can't get the Caesars feeds because Spanky has like cut a deal essentially.
Spank Odds has a deal with Caesars that they wouldn't sell it to other people. That's what Jack is.
That's the
Potentially.
insinuation.
That's the insinuation, right? And there could be more to it. Jack certainly knows more. But to me, like that's honestly, I hate to say it because like I would love to have a live Caesars feed as well. That's good business.
That was when I watched the video, that was my thought the entire time. Like he's complaining like he's owed a Caesars feed. Like that's something that he's entitled to. Like, okay, if Spanky pays enough and has their own Caesars feed and has an exclusive right. Like,
here's the thing. This is, I mean, like the ecosystem is huge.
Yeah.
The sports gambling ecosystem is huge. Like I said, it might not even be what you're involved in, but the sundress walks are as part of the ecosystem, just like top-down betting debates on.
Yeah.
They're different parts.
Yes.
But they're in the universe. I would say outside of the people like actually in this, like who the fuck's supposed to give a shit about what's happening to top-down bettors?
Yeah.
Like as
Totally
a bettor, a what do I call myself? A sophisticated square. Okay, like who the hell's supposed to care? Like even other pro bettors who don't participate in top down.
Yeah.
Do they give a shit if something's happening to top down bettors?
No, they would actively cheer against them,
Yes.
or at least I would actively cheer
Listen,
against
I
them.
do some top-down bet. I bet NBA props from a top-down perspective because I don't know anything about the NBA, and it's a way for me to spend a little time and make a decent ROI. Like I can do a 10% ROI on NBA props by not doing any work. But I generally, as an originator in hockey and football, view top-down betting as like cheap, lowly, scummy. I don't give a shit. Like if I'm top-down betting and I get got by someone faking the market on some sort of specific prop, like who gives a shit? Like that's on me. I'm trying to take the least resistance path as possible. Sure, I'm gonna get got on some fakes. I can deal with that. Like I don't really get that argument.
And even on top of that, even past who cares, because there are a lot of top-down bettors, so they obviously care. Who the hell feels bad for Jack that he can't get a Caesars feed?
Yeah.
No one thinks that Jack is entitled to
So
that
that
or
is
feels bad about that.
There's a word for that. That's like, well, he's got a business, but
100%.
that does reek of like significant main character syndrome.
Yes, agreed.
I think that there's this general feeling from some people, maybe Jack would be one of these people, where it's like we should all just get along in the space. It's helpful. Like I view it this way.
But they're running competing businesses.
I understand, but growing the market as a whole is helpful for everyone. It's no different than when I consulted for offshore sportsbooks in the past. And, the sportsbooks I'm consulting for are trying to get crypto deposits because it's way cheaper They don't have to, they don't have to source a credit card processor that's going to charge them 15% on every dollar that's coming in. They can process crypto transactions for nothing. Well, guess what? All of the offshore sports books are trying to get crypto transactions. So why don't all these groups just come together and have like a crypto campaign? Let's all collectively put a bunch of money in and get a campaign out there about how easy it is to use crypto, this and that, instead of trying to compete against each other by one-upping each other on bonuses and stuff like that. I do think that in this space with like betting tools, odds screens, it's in the best interest of all the companies to promote top-down betting, get education out there. But at some point or another, it is business as well. And if you can get yourself a USP, a unique selling proposition, a one-up on everyone else by having a feed that nobody else does, that is maybe coveted, you got to take those shots.
Jack wouldn't.
Of course he would.
I'm sure he would.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that he wouldn't, but if the roles were reversed, I don't.
And also, in your example, yes, that's a perfectly logical way to go about it if all the businesses don't have a crypto feed.
Right.
But if one of those offshore sports books was able to get crypto in and none of the others could, they wouldn't want to help the other sports books because that's an advantage for them.
Good point. Yep.
So right now, SpankOdds has that advantage. Why would he give that away? Like, it's not like he's doing something nefarious. He's just probably paying more.
There's a lot. There's more going on behind the scenes, definitely. I think there's like some, one thing I noticed is it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I don't know the details on this, but I noticed this year Unabated was not a sponsor at BetBash, whereas they were in previous years. Whether or not they wanted to sponsor it or they chose to not give sponsorship dollars there, they were all there. So there's something like, there's definitely some sort of, personality clash happening that contributes to all of this in one way or another. But my stance is very clear, and I would say this even as a co-owner in Betstamp, we have the same issues now with the Caesars feed. I don't really publicly complain about them. I look for solutions, and we all look for solutions on this type of stuff because we want to better the product. I don't want handshake deals to happen under the table and things of that nature to source, but if they do, that's just part of life. You look at like fucking WWE, Vince McMahon, how he buried like all of the companies coming up. You adapt or die, man. If you're in business, you got to adapt or die, period. And some people won't like it, but guess what? They're gonna get left in the dust, and that's the reality of life, unfortunately. That's the reality of life. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you smash that like button down below. And of course, we read all the comments. If we're wrong, you think any of us are wrong or misguided on some of the opinions, let us know any single one of these opinions. And of course, we're back here on Circle Back next week, Tuesday, 8 a.m. Thanks for watching. Peace out.